Hi guys, it's Andy from Man City Fan TV and welcome to this latest video. It's Friday the 13th. Surprise, surprise. Well, it's not a surprise really. Yeah, Premier League games have been suspended, cancelled, whatever you want to call it, until the 3rd or the 4th of April. Whether that is going to be long enough, well, I guess we have to wait and see. And I'm sure what's going to happen is they're going to assess in the coming weeks how this outbreak is going to spread, and it's only going to get worse. There's been reports of it could take 10 to 16 weeks before we get a handle on exactly how bad this outbreak is. But I think they've done the right thing, and actually suspending games is a prudent move, and I think all Premier League clubs, apart from maybe one or maybe two, have actually petitioned against this and have spoken out and said their own piece with regards to players and staff that have already contracted COVID-19, and also players and staff that have had to go into isolation because of the COVID-19 virus. So it is what it is, and yes, games are going to be suspended, which leaves us where, from a footballing point of view. You can see on the roll bar down below, my questions is today, is 3 weeks long enough? Probably not, if I'm being honest with you. I think it's just a delaying tactic to have an assessment period where they can sort of get a handle on it, even after it. And what it does is it makes the government's announcement last night about all sporting events going ahead pretty embarrassing. And as we've seen now, Mikel Arteta has gone into quarantine. We've seen Hudson-Odoi, we've seen Ben Mendy, we've seen Artem Boric at Bournemouth. We've had Premier League managers coming out and making statements saying this is ridiculous. We shouldn't be putting people's lives at risk. And it's not just the footballers' lives and the staff of the football club's lives. It's their family members. And Kasper Schmeichel yesterday on TalkSport actually made that very point. So if you haven't heard that, go over and listen to Kasper Schmeichel's comments with regards to this and the fact that he has to go home to his young children, to his elderly family members and things like that. And the last thing you want to do is have to go into self-isolation and not see your family members. And it's the same for footballers as it is for the general public. But anyway, what we're going to talk about, well, we'll start off with the statement, and let's bring up the statement. And this is the statement that came from the Premier League's meeting this morning at 11 o'clock. They convened, as we knew, early hours this morning. That was what was going to happen. And their statement basically says, following a meeting of shareholders today, it was unanimously decided to suspend the Premier League with the intention of returning on the 4th of April, subject to medical advice and conditions at that time. Premier League Chief Executive Richard Masters said, above all, we wish Mikel Arteta and Callum Hudson-Odoi speedy recoveries and everyone else affected by COVID-19. In this unprecedented situation, we are working closely with our clubs, government, the FA and the EFL, and can reassure everyone the health and welfare of players, staff and supporters are our priority. Despite the challenges, it is the Premier League's aim to reschedule the displaced fixtures, including those played by academy sides, when it is safe to do so. In this fast-moving environment, further updates will be provided when appropriate. So there you go. So that was the comment from the Premier League. And like I said, this morning, 11 o'clock, there was a meeting with shareholders, with chief executives of clubs and organisations. Probably the government were involved in this as well. But it does put light on the government's advice last night, sort of saying, no, public events should go ahead, and shows you how ridiculous that is and the concerns. And now there are 1,000 different conspiracy theorists or theories are surrounding why the government would currently continue to allow the likes of Cheltenham today, 30,000 people plus, all packed in. And there's been rumours from one thing or another, the fact that it would take up to 60% of the population to contract COVID-19 to be able to start having some sort of immunity against it. And the fact that COVID-19 can come back again and again and again. There's been rumours about the fact that it's all about it's about a financial decision and trying to avoid a recession and try to control the financial markets rather than start causing panic. And you know, who do you believe? At the end of the day, we've all got our own decisions. It's not just affecting football; it's affecting businesses across the country. So we just have to take it as it is, and as it stands at the moment. Like I said, the Premier League, the EFL, all games in the UK, in England and Scotland, Wales, are suspended at this time until the 3rd or 4th, the weekend of the 3rd or 4th of April. Now that's 3 weeks. Is that going to suddenly put light in 3 weeks' time when this virus is probably going to spread tenfold, 20-fold, 50-fold by then? Probably not. I cannot see. I'd really be surprised if the football season reconvenes around that particular weekend at the beginning of April. I think it's just giving them breathing space to assess what's going on and try to get a hold of this, because what it does do is it allows players to go into self-isolation or to go into isolation if they have contracted it. And we're wishing all those players, staff members, people who work at the clubs all the very best if you are not only in self-isolation, which isn't a nice thing for 14 days, but for those who've actually contracted the COVID-19 virus. So good luck, best wishes from us here at Man City Fan TV. So football, what's happening? There's discussions all over the place with regards to, you know, it's early days. People are talking about, should the league be null and void? Should it be reconvened in the summer? Should you push forward, back the Euro 20s into 2021? I've already spoken about this yesterday, where I said, you know, don't forget FIFA have got their Club World Championship competition going ahead allegedly next year. FIFA are not going to give that up to allow UEFA to have their European competition. So it's going to cause loads of problems long term. I think what we need to focus on is immediacy and what's going to happen in the next coming months with regards to the continuation of the football season in all leagues. So yeah, it's a tough one. It is a tough one. Obviously, what you've got on social media, and been in discussion with one guy today, is you've got Liverpool fans saying it's ridiculous to null and void the season because they should be rightly crowned champions. Well, like I've said before, one, Liverpool haven't amassed enough points to be crowned champions as it stands right at this moment in time. Who knows what could potentially happen within the remaining 9-10 games? They could lose everyone. City could win everyone, and Leicester could win everyone. So, you know, that can't happen. You've got people saying, well, just what about the bottom three? Just leave it as it is. Well, you can't, because you've got those bottom three with games in hand to play that could quite easily get 15 points and be easily clear of the bottom three. You've got the championship teams, Leeds, who've been desperate for 19 years to get into the Premier League. Now, what are you going to say? You stay there? And there's been talk of, have a playoff. And you can't do that. You just cannot. And the thing is you're going to have a massive break now, because it's not going to reconvene on the 3rd and 4th of April. You're going to have a massive break between the resumption of the Premier League, if that's the decision that is made. What do footballers do in the meantime? You know, how is it fair to resume after months of inactivity to then suddenly have to go back and resume the league again? It just doesn't make any sense. And the next argument is play it behind closed doors. That's the easy way. Well, that's fine. For example, and like I said, I'm not one way or the other on this, but we played Liverpool at Anfield. So then they're going to come and play City behind closed doors with no City fans there, no atmosphere, no nothing, you know, that type of thing. And that's not just us. That's, you know, people around the top four, Chelsea and United and Arsenal and Sheffield United and Wolves. And how is that fair? How is it fair to give one team an advantage who's already played those games, but a team then has to play their game behind closed doors? It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and I cannot see how there won't be legal challenges. Another thing, what if they do go ahead with this? They say, okay, as it stands at the moment, that's the end of the Premier League season. Liverpool are champions. City are second, Leicester are third, and Chelsea are fourth. They go into the Champions League. What about the prize money? So a league hasn't been finished, but Liverpool get the Premier League prize money. They've already lost 30 million for going out the Champions League. What about the bottom three? and the prize money for staying in next season's Premier League season? What about the finances lost by the likes of Leeds United, who could, or more than likely, will potentially be in the Premier League next season? What about the finances for those teams? Or do they just go, we share it all around equally? And every team, we just divvy it up. And yeah, whatever the prize money is, we divide it by 20, 40, 60, and everybody gets the same similar cut of it. So there's so many different variables when it comes to what's going to happen next. But I think that's something to discuss maybe in the future, because right now, sensible, prudent action has been taken, and that's to suspend all games. And if players need to go into 14-day isolation, then that's what they do. Now, another thing that we're going to quickly talk about is what happens to the teams that are currently struggling financially and won't have the gate receipts, which, let's face it, brings in, okay, for big clubs, likes of City, United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs, etc., the gate receipts aren't huge in the bigger scheme of things, but they are for teams that are struggling down near the bottom. Might not be as wealthy as some of the other Premier League clubs, but certainly, what about the EFL? What about the Championship? What about League One? What about those teams that absolutely rely on the gate income to possibly even pay their players, their staff, the wages that is required under contractual law? What happens to those teams? So what about the rumours are that the Premier League are currently sitting, allegedly, with a £1.5 billion reserve. Now, what are the Premier League going to do with that money? Is it about time the Premier League steps up and actually uses some of that money for the relief of the financial loss that players, staff, clubs, whatever it may be, are they going to use that money and share that money? I know it's Premier League, but surely at the end of the day, it's all about football. It's all about football. It's all about staff. It's all about community. We've already seen the likes of Bury go into administration. Are we going to see over the next month, are we going to see lower league English Football League teams struggle that much that they potentially will go into liquidation or administration? Because let's face it, some of these clubs are surviving on a month-to-month basis. So is it about time the Premier League dip their hand into that massive big reserve, alleged reserve, and start helping out not only some of the lesser Premier League teams, but certainly EFL teams? And I think that's something that should definitely be looked into, and we'll wait to see. Because let's face it, it's all about community spirit, it's about football clubs, it's about helping each other in times of need, then surely the Premier League should be doing the right thing when it comes to this. Next up, another question. What happens to all the perishable items that football stadiums, certainly in the Premier League and Championship, etc., are hoarding at this moment in time? If there are going to be no games, definitely no games between now and the very least the 3rd, 4th of April. Can you imagine for this weekend? Because let's face it, today is Friday the 13th. And games were supposed to be going ahead tomorrow. That's how late the cancellation has happened. Well, those teams would have had preparation of food, of potatoes, of other perishable items that, bread, burger buns, blah, 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 you name it. You think of how much money has been spent on perishable items by football clubs across the Premier League and the EFL in preparation for the games that were told by the government yesterday, he's definitely going ahead. There's going to be no cancellations. Well, what's happening to all those perishable items? Is it about time now that clubs, we know Manchester City have food bank donation points outside the Etihad Stadium on match days and throughout the week. Is it about time that clubs got together and made sure all those perishable items go to people in need and donate all of that immediately to these charities, to these food banks and things like that? So another point of view on there with regards to what happens to things like that. Now, moving on, we've seen today, and this is another thing, we know that the Real Madrid game and the UEFA cancelled all European games, and we know that clubs are like Real Madrid are in 14-day, 15-day isolation from the reports of yesterday and the videos that I did yesterday. But today The next update is from the Foreign and Commonwealth Office website, and that basically states that they are advising against all but essential travel to the following regions that the Spanish Ministry of Health have designated as areas of community transmission of coronavirus: Madrid and La Rioja, and municipalities of La Bastida and Vitoria, both in the Basque Country, and Miranda de Ebro in Castilla y León. The Spanish government has suspended all incoming flights from Italy until the 25th of March, and the Spanish government has also asked people to avoid unnecessary travel, to consider remote working wherever possible. So you can see now, not only have we got the likes of Slovakia. Last night, we have clients in Slovakia. Well, there's been cancellations of flights in and out of Slovakia. In Madrid, unless you are a resident there, then they are now saying that flights in and out and travel to Madrid is going to be cancelled. So we're now starting to see sort of transport be massively affected with regards to movement of large numbers of peoples in and out of countries. This is only going to get worse. This is not going to get better. This is not something that is a short-term thing. This is not something that, 2 weeks to the 3rd of April, there's going to be this is not going to be allowed. This is not going to suddenly change on the 3rd or 4th of April. We know, we've said, we've heard, we've read issues where they're saying the peak of this could be another 10 to 16 weeks away. That's 4 months. We are talking about August time, July, August time, when this could hit its peak. So it's going to have a massive effect, not only on football in general, but people's lives, people's livelihoods, business, things like that, and just every day going around the place, going to social gatherings, pubs, clubs, bars, restaurants. What's going to happen with them? And so it's a massive, massive thing. It really is. So I guess we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to find out what's going to happen in the near future. But one thing's for sure: there's going to be no football between now and the 3rd or 4th of April, at the very least. If that is not reassessed the week before and then says, look, this is never going to go ahead next weekend, we're going to cancel for another 3-4 weeks. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be reassessed on a 2-3 weekly basis. And then a decision will be made as to, do we go ahead, play behind closed doors? Is that fair? Is that just? Is that right? Is that self-serving towards one club winning the Premier League, and 3 clubs that are fighting for relegation, and 3 clubs that are fighting to get into the Premier League? Who knows? That's way above our pay scale, but it's that decision alone in the future is going to cause loads of frictions, problems, issues, you name it, because I'm sure there'll be people challenging that, asking lots of questions as to why, and as to who gets the money, and how is that right, and how is that just, and what about us, because as we're all self-serving at a time when we need community spirit. But anyway, that's just an update. It is Friday the 13th. It's an absolute nightmare. Wishing all the best to the players, staff, people who work around the clubs, and everybody else in the general public who are affected by this, not only from a physical point of view, but maybe emotional, maybe not being able to go and visit your parents who are elderly because you may have a cough, or whatever it may be, and the fear of transmitting that to somebody who is at risk. One other thing, it is interesting. I did ask the video I did on Wednesday talking about the Arsenal game, saying, why is this being postponed? For what reason? Because it doesn't make sense. Well, as we know, Mikel Arteta was diagnosed. I did say in the video, Arsenal stadium was being disinfected the day after. Why would that possibly need to happen? So it seems like this was possibly known by individuals, by the club, by whoever, ahead of the cancellation and postponement of the Arsenal game on Wednesday night, because the information that came out didn't make any sense whatsoever. But now we can certainly see potentially why that decision was made. But anyway, wishing everybody all the very best. We'll be back later. This is just a quick update on the news that's coming out. Keep safe, everyone. Keep disinfecting your hands, sanitizing your hands, washing your hands, wherever it is, and fingers crossed we can all muddle through this one way or the other. But take care, and we'll see you soon.